So you are on the market searching for the best knee guards for bikers, electric unicycles, or even if you are just a PEV rider. I have on the table two of the cheapest versions, but also the best ones that the market have to offer you, the Leatt Dual Axis and the Fox Titanium Pro with a technology called D3O, and I will tell you why I like so much this one. And also why I swap for the Fox Titanium Pro and why I think that the Leatt Dual Axis is pure garbage. If you want to know a little bit more about these two knee guards for bikers, electric unicycle riders, or PEV riders, stay tuned until the end of the video. Hi everyone, Marcus here from MedPack, and if you love tech and if you love discounts, this is the place for you. And today we are going to talk about these new knee guards that I purchased with my own money. Yes, nobody have paid me to talk about any of these two, so I bought my Leatt Dual Axis, and recently I bought the Fox Titanium Pro with D3O. But let's dive in on the technology that made me definitely want to try the Fox Titanium Pro, and that is D3O. So yeah, this is the shorts that I've been using for the last 6 years. Yeah, you heard me well, 6 years that I have the exact same ones. They are not cheap, but they have a massive amounts of pads with this technology. In other words, this material is very, very flexible, as you can see, but if it suffers an impact, it will get harder. And when we talk about D3O and knee protections, I also use that for a long period of time because this one was my main pair. But I have a big issue because every time that I was going to work, I have to remove all my clothes to remove these ones they were underneath. So for that reason, I was searching for something that is easier to put and easier to take it out. And since everyone is using, I thought, why not start using them? Because if they are good for wrong way, Adam, they are good for me also. And when we talk about recommending gear protection, it's really difficult until you start having some issues, or in this case, some accidents with your gear protection. And as you can see, this one is broken. And you may think, these have done the job, but I don't think so. So let's now start comparing these two knee pads and understanding the big difference and why I think that this one is so much better than this one. When we talk about length, this was something that I've never been really happy about the Leatt Dual Axis because they were part of your chin that was completely exposed. So in this case, when I'm using my boots and I'm using now the Fox Titanium Pro, you can see that this is basically the profile of my leg. So anything that happens to the front of my leg is fully protected. But if I put on the other hand the Leatt Dual Axis, this part was always exposed, making that if something was hitting in here, I'll have more chances to break my leg, because if you have a pressure happening in here, this will go in, and this is another issue that I always had with them, and that we'll talk a little bit more in depth. So when we look here to the bottom, you can see that the pads on the Fox Titanium Pro, they are longer than on this one. And I'm not saying this part here because this doesn't give you any padding. When we talk about the padding on this one, is about 8 to 9 millimeters maximum. And when you go here, 1.2 millimeters. Is something that is nothing, but this makes a massive difference. Because many times using the Leatt Dual Axis, this part is very uncomfortable. Since it's in the middle of my chin and it doesn't go lower, this part is basically doing a lot of pressure against my pads, making it uncomfortable. When with the Fox Titanium Pro, that doesn't happen anymore because you have just a slightly bigger length, plus the bottom is a little bit bigger. And when we talk about the pads, is not even comparable. So when we look to the inside, you can see that the pads here are much more significant and much well thought. And even if you look here on the bottom, you can see that this is just a mesh material, so your leg is against the plastic. And here you have a lot of padding. So that's the reason why this one feels much more comfortable. So the Fox Titanium Pro feels much more comfortable than the Leatt Dual Axis. So now let's talk about this knee system that I thought that I really like it until I tried the Leatt Titanium Pro. And the first thing is, yes, your knee is always covered, but if you see on the inside, your knee will be next to the plastic. When we talk about the Fox Titanium Pro, it's a massive difference, because when you fold your knee, you can see that this is the cover that is next to your knee, stays away from the surface that is hitting the floor, creating a gap that more or less from this section is more or less 7 centimeters, 6 centimeters and a half. That's a massive difference, because if you think about it, when you are hitting the floor, you start bending your knees and it hits there. So in opposite that, on the Leatt Dual Axis, your knee is very close to the surface, you create that massive gap, and after that you hit the floor, your leg starts to straight, and basically this starts to come closer, but the strength of the impact will be reduced. So when we look to these knee protections on the side, you can see that this one, it's about 9 centimeters, 10 centimeters more or less. And when you go to the profile of your Leatt, you have about 7 centimeters more or less, okay? So in other words, if you have a car hitting you from the side, and I hope that that doesn't happen, but if you have 1.5 centimeters more if you are using the Titanium Pro than if you are using the Leatt Dual Axis. And since we are talking about axis, let's talk about this, because if you think about it, these two are bolted to the kneecap here on the middle. So if you are completely straight, this section is just one piece of plastic, and that's how my friend broke his Leatt. They crack here on the middle, because the impact was when he was with his knees completely straight. In the other hand, if you go to the Fox Titanium Pro, you have this surface that is covering your knee, and you'll have the other two sections of the top part and the bottom part covering all your knee. So you have 3 layers. And the other thing is obviously on your knee, and also if you look to this section here, you have D3O. So you have another layer under the first layer of plastic that is going to get hard in case of an impact. And when we talk about cushioning during the trips, since it's flexible, is going to increase the comfort that you feel from the inside. And if we look to the axis here, is a completely different approach, and the reason why I think that this is worse than this is related with the crush that I have, because I think that can give you problems in the near future. But if we look to the profile, if you look from this side here, you can see that it's basically flush with the surface. When you look here, you can see that it stands out. So if there is a pressure here, there is more risk to this to come apart, and you will have less protection because this part will start to come out. And in this case, since these two are bolted to the same sections, even if one comes apart, there is more chances that this one will stick in the right place. So definitely something that I like, and like I said, since it's more flush to the surface, you have less risk to this axis to break. But let's talk about the big elephant in the room, that is this section here that I break, and I think it's a massive flaw in design and why I really don't like it. So basically, if you see here, you have these small holes that you are going to attach this thing, and you are going to put on the inside of this hole, and this stays in place and it will start rotating. But you rely just in a very small bit of plastic in a crush to stay intact and giving you the protection that you need. So if you look here, you have basically what? 4.5 millimeters of plastic to maintain in place. So basically, when I hit the floor, and this is on the outside of your leg, basically this section here that is attached suffer a pressure on the side, and it starts bending in this way, okay? And as you can see, these start to come apart, you see? Is breaking in there. The whole mechanism that is maintaining this in place, it completely snapped. And now you can say, Marco, you have a very bad crash, you were not lucky. But like I said, my friend had not a massive crash, and this cracked. I crashed with these ones at what, 20 something miles per hour? And they come apart. And this is basically advertised to like budget entry level of knee guards from Leatt to protect your knee if you do motocross and those type of things. And after what it happens to me, I didn't like it, the fact that I've been using this for a long period of time and nothing happened, because hopefully I never had big crashes with it. So now that we looked to the system of the Leatt Dual Axis, let's see what Fox with the Titanium Pro have to offer us. And in this case, let me just open this. Obviously, if you look to this section, is not really thick, okay? So here we are saying 6 millimeters, so similar thickness that you get on the Leatt Dual Axis, but with a big difference is that this surface is basically covering this middle section that from 4.5 it becomes more or less 17 or 17 mils. So in other words, this section where you are going to attach your knee guard is going to be much thicker and is the part that suffers the impact and all the pressure. And if you look here to this design, obviously the pressure will go against this outside that is thinner. But even if it happens a pressure that is coming from the bottom or if coming from the top, this section will start rotating. And since it doesn't rely in just a very small area, all the pressure will be distributed on this portion here and this portion here. And since this can rotate to one side and the other, it will reduce the amount of force that is created in here. And I think that will give a massive amount of durability to this kind of design. Another thing that I prefer on this one is the fact that the top portion of your leg have more surface of protection than it happens on the Leatt. So definitely a plus that I have also with the Fox Titanium Pro compared to the Leatt Dual Axis. But now you may think, is it a big difference in price between these two? Let me show you. So if you search online and if you are searching for a Leatt Dual Axis, you'll see that the prices, they vary and they go from £84.99 to £74.99. But now if you search for the Fox Titanium Pro, you can see that you can purchase for £89.99, so £90. So basically the difference in price between these two, and when we talk about technology, I think you can see there is much more technology on this one than this one. These knee pads, they just cost you £15 more than the Leatt Dual Axis. So obviously falls and impacts on these knee guards still needs to happen, or I hope not, but it will happen eventually. I really believe that these ones will give me more protection than the Leatt Dual Axis. And the big question is, do you think that is worth it to save £15 compared to the Fox Titanium Pro after all these features that I said? I don't think so, because you have D3O, one of the technologies that I like the most, and it saved me so many times crashing at 40-45 kilometers per hour. I have to say to you guys that if that is a technology that I really trust, is this material, and I will not swap this for anything in the world. And since this technology on the Fox Titanium Pro is available protecting your knee and your chin, I'll definitely recommend you to just get rid of the Leatt Dual Axis and purchase the Fox Titanium Pro. And once again, before you just forget what I said before, I bought these two with my own money, so nobody pay me anything. I'm trying to just give back to you guys, my community, for you to be safer, because I'm really thankful to have an accident with this one so slow, because if something goes wrong, I think that this one gives me more chances to come without any injury than with the Leatt Dual Axis. My name is Marco, this is MedPack. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, comment below, smash the thumbs up, do whatever you want, but always with a smile on your face, and I hope to see you in the next one.